Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this is the iPhone 13 Pro Max. I've been using it for an entire week as my main phone, and it's been a pretty good phone. But I did want to go over the good and the bad about the phone overall, since there's mostly good things, but there's some negative things as well to talk about. Now, the first positive is the design. This design is one of the things I really like the most about the phone, and it's really quite well built. It's stainless steel and glass, and it feels very, very premium and durable. So it's carrying over the last year's design, and I really like the squared off design, and it seems to be very durable and hopefully will hold up as well as my 12 Pro Max did. Now, the cameras this year all get an upgrade. They're all 12 megapixel cameras, but we get autofocus with ultra wide, and we also get macro as well. But I'm recording straight out of the rear facing camera in 4K with an iPhone 13 Pro Max. So what you're hearing is audio from the phone. I have no external microphones on. I set it on a tripod and hit record. So this is what you can expect directly out of the phone. Now, like I said, the cameras are really impressive this year. So you have a new ultra-wide that also has autofocus. And with the ultra-wide camera, you can capture more of the surrounding area, of course. But with that autofocus, it just makes things that much better. So it's better at low light, it has better autofocus, or has autofocus, and does a great job. The regular 1x camera can pick up more light this time around, so it has a great night mode. And now you can also do macro, so you can get up close to things. And it's something that you can do in photos and videos. Also, you have a telephoto zoom up to 3x this time. So 3 times telephoto zoom. There's photos I took with different photo styles, and those photo styles work really well as far as adjusting it how you want, whether that be standard or vibrant, or you can just adjust it however you want, and it will bake that into the photo. The detail is really great, and even at night, it picks up more low light. So they're really, really good cameras. And in fact, the cameras are good enough as far as the video is concerned that I actually used it in my previous videos when I'm in front of the camera. I stopped using an expensive Sony camera and just put the iPhone there and hit record and used an external mic in those cases. So it's good enough that you could definitely use it full-time for YouTube, and honestly, most people won't know the difference. So it looks great, and of course it does HDR as well. And then there's the new cinematic mode. So cinematic mode does 1080p HDR, but allows you to choose the focus after you've taken the video, or while you're using it. If you look away, the focus will shift to the person behind you, and then it will come back as you look back toward the camera. So it can shift around, and it's intelligent and does that, and also blurs the background similar to a portrait photo, but does it in real time in the video. Now, the next good thing is the price is the same. So it starts at $1,099 for the Pro Max, and then goes up to $1,599 if you want the larger 1 terabyte option that they've added this year. However, we don't get a charger in the box this year again, and this is to save on some environmental waste. But if you need a charger, that's where the charging partner of this channel, Anchor, has come in and sponsored this video. I'll talk more about them a little bit later, but I'll link them in the description below if you want to check out the charger that I use now. Now, when you're using the phone, one thing I noticed is not only is it fast, as you would expect with the A15 Bionic, it still has 6 gigabytes of RAM, but the phone is not as warm. Even recording videos like this, when I'm recording videos, it's just not as hot as it was last year. You can keep the screen brighter for longer. It doesn't seem to dim like it did last year with the 12 Pro Max, and it seems to manage heat a little bit differently. Now, it doesn't look like they've changed the cooling internally, but it does seem to manage it much, much better. So that's a great thing for a lot of people, since if you live in a hotter or warmer climate, it's going to make a difference for you. Now, with the battery this year, Apple has greatly increased the size, but also reduced the overall usage of the battery with the A15 Bionic being more efficient. So you can easily get through the day without any problem. In fact, I haven't gone to bed with it being below 50% except for once. So just using it heavily the first couple days, it went below 50% most of the time. This is a 2-day phone, at least for me it is. And even recording video, it just doesn't seem to use a lot of power. That A15 Bionic chip just sips power and does a great job. And also it's just more efficient and a larger battery, so it's going to make that difference. So I've had some people tell me they're getting 14 hours of screen on time with their device with the 13 Pro Max, which is definitely an increase over any previous iPhone. So it makes a huge difference if you're coming from maybe an SE or an iPhone 11, any of those, it's going to be a big, big difference. Now, the next thing is the display. This year we get Apple's ProMotion. This is a great thing we've wanted for years. In the Pro and Pro Max, it's 120 hertz ProMotion, and even with ProMotion, it doesn't seem to affect the battery. So you've got ProMotion that makes things super smooth, and if you've ever used it on an iPad Pro, you'll be familiar with it, but if you haven't, it just makes things smoother than they already are with iOS. So as you scroll between pages and settings and different things like that, you'll definitely notice a difference, and if you don't like it, you can turn it off. So they've given you that option, which will, in theory, extend battery even more. Now, as far as PWM is concerned, well, PWM, or pulse width modulation, is the way the display controls brightness. Apple has implemented this with OLED, and it's been in just about every OLED phone there is, but this year it seems to be a little bit different. I don't know if that's in combination with ProMotion. It's still there technically, but it's much harder to pick up. So it could be at a faster rate, or maybe the combination of ProMotion and PWM makes a difference. But this screen does not bother my eyes even a little bit, where previous generations would, as I would get tired with the 12 Pro Max or the 11 Pro Max. I could kind of notice it, but this time around, something's different on the Pro phones where it doesn't bother my eyes at all. So this is great news if these things bother you. I didn't notice a problem. If you're super sensitive, you may see an issue, but I didn't notice a difference whatsoever. And the screen is super bright in sunlight, so it's easy to see 1,000 nits now, or 1,200 nits with HDR footage, just like last year as far as that goes, but its basic brightness goes up to 1,000 nits, and like I said before, it doesn't seem to dim the display as quickly as it did before. I haven't seen that happen yet. Now, I don't have it in a case regularly, so if you had it in a case that completely seals the phone, it definitely could bring that down if it gets too hot, but I have yet to experience it, and I definitely experienced it a few times over and over with the 12 Pro Max, so there's certainly something different there. Now, the other good thing this year is they've shrunk the notch. Now, the notch has become narrower, but it's more prominent into the screen, or it's a little bit taller. And so this isn't a problem for me. It seems like videos that were a problem on YouTube have been fixed, where you would actually see the notch protrude into the video a little bit. This doesn't seem to be a problem anymore. So Apple's fixed that, or maybe YouTube's fixed that. But right now, the display is fine as far as the notch goes, and the notch is smaller. So you don't get extra things like a battery percentage in the upper right for some reason still, but maybe they'll fix that in the future. But right now it's not that big of a deal, but they've shrunk the notch, and maybe in the future they'll eliminate it. But right now it's still there. Now, while there's not a lot bad to say about this phone, there's a few things, and one of them has to do with the charger. And the reason I say that's a bad thing is because some people that are coming from older phones may not have a charger that's compatible with USB-C. So if you need a charger, that's where our charging partner comes in, who sponsored this video, and this is the Anker Nano Pro. It's 45% of the size of the regular charger that you can get from Apple, and it works flawlessly with your new iPhone using Power IQ 3.0. Anker Nano Pro fast charges at 20 watts despite being almost half the size. It also uses Anker's patented Active Shield to monitor temperature and adjust current to make sure the phone doesn't get too hot. There's 4 different colors available: Glacier Blue, Cool Lavender, Arctic White, and Black Ice, and of course I'll link them in the description if you want to pick them up for yourself. Now, the next bad thing or negative thing is the weight of the phone. Now, this is something you get over very quickly, but it is definitely heavier with its materials of stainless steel, and then you have ceramic shield, which is very durable, by the way. My year-old 12 Pro Max without a screen protector the entire year has 1 scratch, and that's because I dropped it into something metal, a tripod. Otherwise, it doesn't have a single scratch on it for an entire year. That's something I haven't seen before in previous iPhones. But it is heavier. The camera module definitely feels heavier, but it does seem to be fairly balanced. So if you balance it on your finger or maybe on a stick, it seems to be fairly balanced. So that's not really an issue, but there's definitely a weight increase. If you're coming from a smaller phone or even a 12 Pro Max, you'll notice the difference. The other negative is there's a bunch of touch bugs, at least at the initial launch of the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max, and sometimes touch just doesn't work on the display. So if you're touching the display and scrolling or anything like that, it's kind of strange that there's just touch bugs all over the place. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and other times it's just fine for days, and then of course it happens again, and sometimes a reboot fixes it, or you just have to tap a few different times and it works again. But that's something that can be fixed through software, I hope, and in the future I would expect an update. Apple's aware of it and seems to be working on a fix for that. The only other negative I have is that it's expensive. So if you're coming from a 12 Pro Max to a 13 Pro Max, you'll have to shell out another $1,099 or up for it unless you're on a plan that lets you just transfer to a different phone. So there's not a whole lot of negatives for this phone. It's basically the best phone Apple's ever made. The camera's amazing. You've heard it the entire time with the microphone and the camera built in here, and it just does a great job overall. My personal opinion is if you're coming from an iPhone 11 or older, it's a great upgrade. If you're coming from a 12 Pro Max, you need to decide if battery is your main thing, camera, or maybe that ProMotion display. Otherwise, it's not worth upgrading to, in my opinion. But if those things matter most to you, well, then it's definitely a big upgrade. So the camera is at a point this time around where it's good enough that I can use it confidently for videos, just setting it on automatic and hitting record. It's that good. And it's something that I plan to use more in the future now. Now, whether or not I use this as my main phone because of its overall size remains yet to be seen. I may go down to the 12 Pro this year. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to use that and then do a review, but I want to give an honest 7-day review of each phone. So it will take a while to get through all of them. But overall, it's a great phone. I have very few complaints, amazing battery life, incredible camera, and I highly recommend it. But if you're on a 12 or 12 Pro Max, you may want to skip this year. It just depends what matters most to you. I'd love to hear what you think about it in the comments below. And if you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already, though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.